Hello, beautiful, and welcome to another episode of Beautiful I Am Colored. As you know, we are in season 2 of the podcast and have morphed into a talk show where each week I share some insights with you that I've learned throughout my week. And also, I'll be interviewing guests from time to time. The interviews will align with themes highlighted in my book, Beautiful I Am Colored, having to do with spirit, mind, soul, and body. You can find Beautiful I Am Colored exclusively on my website at beautifuliamcolored.com. You can also click the link on the website if you're interested in the ebook version. I am so honored that you have returned to hear more, and as always, I absolutely 1,000% appreciate your support. For those interested, you can follow me on Instagram at beautifuliamcolored, on my website again at beautifuliamcolored.com. And I am so happy to get this started. It has been a week, has it not? It has been a week. I know so many of my friends have been struck by the U.S. Supreme Court ruling reversal Roe v. Wade. And so, especially if you're involved in politics at any level, people have been impacted by that. But as always, my podcast focuses on a lot of positive and being intentional about putting positive vibes in the atmosphere. So while sometimes things may seem a little bit turbulent or a lot turbulent, as my week has been, to be honest with you, there's always something to be gleaned. That's how I live my life, even in the toughest of times. And again, I've had a pretty tough week on a personal level. No loss of a loved one or anything like that, closest to me, but just like internally, and then through like marriage, relationship stuff, like me and Marlon had to have a serious conversation this week. It's one of those hard truth moments. And so that had been weighing on me pretty heavily this week. Not only that, I wasn't able to complete the 15 miles. So if you've been following me and this journey of the podcasting world for a while, then you know that, of course, when I say that part of the theme has to do with spirit, mind, soul, and body, one of the things that I'm working on is my overall health and well-being. So if you follow me on Instagram, I love to have a good time. I like my beers, I like my cigars, etc. But that has to be done in harmony, right? You have to do the majority of the time, eat right, exercise. So one of my goals was to, of course, switch it up, because I was lifting weights and stuff. So I switched it up and started trying to incorporate doing 15 miles per week, and everything was going good. For almost the whole month of June, I've been able to keep up with my goal. But this past week, I didn't reach my goal. I used the Map My Run app, and I reached 73% of my goal, which roughly equates to about 11 miles for the week. And you all know by now, those of you who listen to me regularly, that I'm a very goal-driven person, and so to not reach a goal, it impacts me, some kind of way. I don't consider myself a perfectionist, but some people do. And so it bothered me, and I was just like, but whatever, it is what it is, after having such a challenging week, personally, every now and then, between making decisions and stuff. And as some of you know, again, I recently graduated from law school, not to become a lawyer. I have a law degree now, which I'm very proud of, but been having just a challenging time with finding out really what to do next, and have been applying for jobs and things like that. And so the stress of that, Marlon's job's been stressing him out as well. And so just trying to be intentional about, whenever you fall off, getting back on, figuring out, what the root cause is to why you're feeling the way you're feeling, what is the actual real issue. Thankfully, I have people in my life who help me to get back on track whenever I fall off. And so I'll get into that in a second, in the shout outs and thank yous. But I just wanted to just elaborate a little bit on the whole 15 mile per week thing. So today, Sunday, this morning I got up, and there's a park down the street from my house, about, a little shy of 0.20 miles from my house, that I like to do, laps in. I'm very familiar with it and stuff, and most times it's a pleasant workout. I have my headphones and stuff like that. And so today I was like, I made up in my mind before I left the house. I said, you know what? Go ahead and put your Map My Run app on, but just go until you can't go. If you get to 5, great. If you don't get to 5, fine. And so just that little change in my mental state like helped me so much. Like I completed my 5 miles today. And part of that has to do with mindset and making up my mind to think about things a little bit differently and just enjoy it, right? Put on, my playlist, listen to whatever, which by the way, I don't know, for whatever reason, I've been listening to Whitney Houston a lot. I think it's called $1 Million Baby, has been jamming all this week. Toby and Gawe had a couple of new singles that came out, and so I downloaded those and was cranking out those this week because I cannot rap. I really wish I could, but I can't. But I do love like Southern like rap or Southern hip hop, and Toby and Gawe has come to be one of my favorites as of late, just because it centers around what I would say is balance. You don't find too many artists these days that talk about, keeping home together and things like that. And he's one of the very few who does. And so, like many things, I try to keep even my music consistent, the things that I listen to. So, okay, all that's neither here nor there. The bottom line is I finished today the 5 miles and I feel so good. And I think it had to do with me kind of alleviating just a little bit of pressure, not totally absolving myself of the goal that I set for myself, but just a little bit of that pressure, just unscrewing that valve just a little bit so that a little bit of air could escape, so that I wouldn't have as much tension and as much stress as I had on last week. And that made all the difference in the world. So that may be you. You may have been under a lot of stress, or maybe even a little bit of stress lately, and you're trying to tweak some things or trying to examine, some newfound territory of, what's the next. And I would just like to encourage you to take an assessment of yourself, because at the end of the day, that's the only person that you are in control of is you. You have no control over your spouse, your kids, your other family members, friends, etc. But you do have the ability to change yourself. So take an assessment. Where are these strengths, where are these weaknesses at? And actually, before we get out to shout outs and thank yous, one more point. I was at the beauty shop, aka salon. I'm trying to program myself not to say beauty shop no more, just because of some connotations in the Black community that it has. But nonetheless, I was at the beauty shop this week, and I always get introduced to somebody interesting at the beauty shop that I go to. Shout out to On Point Beauty Bar in 5 Points. Anyway, I was introduced to a lovely coach named Laura Rochelle, who invited me to do a self-assessment like quiz. It's kind of one of those numbers type things where it shoots out some percentages of your strengths, this particular self or strengths and or areas of opportunity. And this particular self-assessment had to do with things that are your, what they call saboteurs, or basically things that are in your personality that have a tendency to sabotage you. And my number one ranked saboteur, I think I'm pronouncing that right, was being a stickler. And I can say that is absolutely 1,000%. It serves me well most times, but sometimes being a stickler does not serve me well at all, especially in my marriage. And so that is an area that I'm working on, actively working on, and getting counsel on and trying to sharpen. I said all that to say that whatever tools work for you, that is what you need to be doing. And if you don't know what tools work for you, then try some that I talk about, or you can even look on YouTube or Google some tools for personal development, self-improvement, etc. I just think that you cannot have enough of that in your life. Okay, that was a long intro, and I said way more than I had anticipated in that segment. And so what I might do this week is switch it up, and instead of cascading into the, actually, I take that back. I'm just going to go with the flow. You see that? Did you see that, how I caught myself being a stickler? Ooh, Evelyn, you got some work to do, child. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break, as always, and then I'll be right back with shout outs and thank yous for this week. All right. Awesome. And we're back. And we are in the segment that I title each week called Shout Outs and Thank Yous, because I feel that it is vitally important to show that you're grateful for the little things and the big things, of course, too, but the little things. So each week I take this moment to shout out or call out or to be thankful for people, places, things, etc. that have been, how can I say, critical in my week and in my journey. So this week I want to shout out some friends and colleagues, actually. Their names are, and I'll do first names only, Dominica, Albus, and Jennifer. And so this week, as I told you in the intro, it was kind of challenging personally wise, while Marlon and I just worked through this next season of life of, the whole empty nester thing. But in just talking with the three of these individuals on a personal level as well as on a career level, it just helped me to refocus and then re-engage and also rethink strategy, rethink objectives, that I set for myself. And sometimes it takes people in your life who see different parts of you to speak to you to bring you back to center. Here's what I mean by that. Recall in the intro, I told you I had been applying for some positions, right? And if you're on the job hunt, in Denver, jobs are actually pretty plentiful. The issue here is finding people to fit those jobs. But even with that said, when you have a certain specific specialized experience or skill set, for me, 3 degrees, one of which being a law degree, also my experience in leadership in the community, and my also subsequently local political engagement and stuff like that, it is really difficult to translate that into a position, just keeping it real with you. And so I have been having some challenges with that. And one of the pieces of feedback that I got from one of my friends this week was I'm thinking too low, of myself. And I was like, oh my God, how critical, right? How critical, what a critical piece of information for me to take in terms of feedback. And as a Black woman, this is something that we do consistently, right? We almost always undervalue ourselves. We almost always, seek out, well, what can we do better? Almost all the time, especially if you are a high achiever or super getter or whatever you call those people, super achievers, I think is what I'm trying to say. And I had to really sit back and say, well, damn, I kind of do undervalue myself. I've learned so many things. I've done so many things, even during, the pandemic and stuff. And I just don't dwell on it. I just have a hard time celebrating those small wins, which is why I keep saying every week to you all, or regularly, not every week, but why I remind you all to celebrate those small things, right? Even the big things too, but celebrate those small things. But I can honestly say that it is something that is such an incredible challenge for me. I'm getting better at it, but it is so hard. So I'm so thankful and honored to have people in my life who can speak into my life and tell me no, sis, you got this. No, you actually already know way more than you think. And the stuff that you don't know, you will easily make up for it by studying, burning the midnight oil if you need to, but you got this, come on. And so I'm so thankful. I really, truly am to have had some wonderful conversations, again, on the personal and career-wise level this week. So thank you again, Dominica, Albus, and Jennifer. Definitely highlights to my week. It was a tough one, as you all know. I've already kind of shared that. All right, that concludes shout outs and thank yous for this week. I'm going to come back with the next segment that I'm going to title this week, Questioning Greatness and Calling, and just give you some finishing or closing thoughts as it pertains to questioning your abilities, questioning what your purpose is, etc. Some things that I kind of figured out about myself this week, I would like to continue elaborating on. Okay, be right back for the next segment. Okay, we're back for the next segment of the recording for this week. And you all probably know by now that personal development, again, goals and things like that are exceptionally important to me and how I live my life. And I listen like a lot to audiobooks over and over again, one of which I've recommended on this podcast before, by Wallace Wattles. But another person that I listen to on a regular basis right now is Jim Rohn. This week I listened to a 1981 lecture from him about life lessons, and he uses the seasons that we have, winter, spring, summer, fall, and correlates them to the seasons of life. And so I just wanted to kind of recap a little bit of my takeaways from that and then elaborate on them further. So like for winter, he says that it always follows fall, right? This is a time where you have disappointments and downtimes, but it's really how you handle those downtimes and things that matter the most. And one other key point from that particular season that he was talking about, meaning the season of life called winter, is that recession always follows progressions. Something that I never talked about, but it's so critical, right? Because right now, from a life standpoint, we're in a place where definitely there are hints of recession in our country right now, and what that means from an economic standpoint in terms of job losses and things of that nature. So that really spoke to me. The second point was spring. And for that one, he says, to learn to take advantage of the spring. Spring is a time for planting, but be sure to plant good things, good crops in the spring. Making sure, you tend to advantages and things quickly because life is just so brief. The third one is summer. And for summer, the takeaway that I have is to learn how to take care of your crops all summer. What that means is there will be times that it's going to be attacked by weeds, right? He has this whole story that he tells about weeds coming, and you need to kind of stay on top of things, right, in the summer. I can tell you that that relates to me too, because I plant flowers in my raised beds in the spring since we moved into the house. And this spring, sometimes, like when I'm out of town and stuff, I don't do a good job of telling the boys to make sure they water it or just making sure that they're watered enough. And so I've lost a couple of my flowering plants during the heat season because I didn't tend to them like they need. And such is life, right? If we do not tend to the things that we need to tend to in the right way, then they will wither up and they will die. So all of the hard work that you did in planting them and cultivating them in the spring, then it goes to zero in the summer when it's really time to just make sure you're maintaining that. And then the fourth and final point was to learn how to reap come harvest time. So he equates that with the fall. And one of the key points of that was to accept responsibility for whatever happens and then to also reap without complaining. And I have a couple of other notes on that, but the one I want to really key or hone in on is to reap without complaining. So oftentimes I have planted seeds, maybe even years ago, and then it comes time to, harvest them. But then it starts to get overwhelming. Like there's opportunities coming, but they're starting to come and, you're complaining about, oh, I got to go to this event. Oh, I got this, I got that. And so he says to be mindful of to reap without complaining, right? Because even the things that we do, like far as complaining, we are creators as human beings. So the words that we say that come out of our mouths are so exceptionally critical. And so that was a check on me because I had noticed that I had been complaining a lot more. And I don't have a complaining nature, but I had a moment where that I was definitely doing that. And so the final takeaway that he left with this particular lecture, again, this is Jim Rohn from 1981. The key question for that was what is it that I'm going to do that will actually make a difference? And I think that's where I am in terms of like questioning my greatness, questioning my calling. And I'm not saying that from an arrogant place, but I'm really being intentional right now about not operating in false humility. I mean, if you're one of the people, anybody who's listening to me, if you're one of the people, you're like, yeah, girl, you're right. You're probably smiling right now, right? Yes, because you're one of the people. And when that you are being pulled into something, sometimes that can be a little bit scary. It can be a little bit challenging from the standpoint of, what does it look like? Like for me, I need to know, like, I want to know the details. I want to know the nuance. I want to know if I can, I want to know all of it up front, or at least to get me to a point to where I can make, a calculated decision. Here's what I want to say. And I'm finding out each and every day. No, ma'am, it's not always going to be like that. No, sir, it is not always going to be like that. Sometimes you're going to get opportunities that come your way, and you are not going to be equipped with the playbook that you want, that is comfortable for your learning style, your personality style, your character, whatever. The question just becomes, are you going to take the leap or are you not? And when I started to dial that back in terms of questioning, the root cause I got to was fear. And if you listen to a lot of personal development folks, no matter who it is, or motivational speakers, Les Brown, Lisa Nichols, again, Jim Rohn, these are some of the people that I listen to on a regular basis. The truth of the matter is that fear grips us all, but it is what you do with that fear when it takes place that will tell you, how can I say this? What you do with that fear determines your outcome. That's what I want to say. Okay. And so can tell you, for me personally, I am in what I feel like is a hard place. To some other people, it's probably not hard, but to me it is hard because I'm having to relinquish power and control in terms of what I feel is comfortable enough to help me make that decision. So I just wanted to conclude this segment on questioning greatness and calling by saying, maybe you're like me, right? You're in a season of life. You're in a season of change. My season of change is coming on all fronts right now. Career, personal, physical, for my fitness, the whole nine. It's hitting me all the way around 360, And I just will have to say and encourage you, sometimes you just have to do stuff anyway. The worst thing that's going to happen to any of us who fear the unknown and fear the unseen is that we still end up in the same place, which you're familiar with, right? But most times than not, every single time that I've done things afraid and taken that leap, I have proven to myself within myself that things are actually a lot better on the opposite end, or the side that I perceive to be scary because of whatever I created in my imagination that outcome would be if I did it. So that's where I am. I hope to be sharing more with you as I continue to personally develop spirit, mind, soul, and body. And thank you, as always, for listening. Well, clearly I had way more than I anticipated to talk to you about this week. As usual, I'm going to say thank you again so much. That concludes the show for this week. As always, I hope that you enjoyed it, but more than anything, I pray that you have found a sense of hope and healing in hearing what I've shared this week. Again, you can contact me directly. I check my own inbox still at beautiful.iamcolored@gmail.com. Visit me on my website and hopefully purchase a book, the hard copy or the ebook version at beautifuliamcolored.com. And also you can follow me on Instagram under that same handle. I have been your host, Evelyn. And remember, the future you is waiting on you. Until next time, beautiful.